Speaking of passing stuff off as my own, someone posted a screenshot of my new book, my latest book. When does it stop being new and start become latest? Is there a date? Is there a cut-off date on that? And anyway, my latest book, in which I said something about the rules governing political advertising being measurably less stringent than the rules governing the sale of washing powder. It was something that became particularly pertinent and particularly awful during the Brexit referendum, actually, but it's been true for years. And it reminded me of a chap that I met some years ago when he just set up an organisation called Reform Political Advertising. And then, as if by magic, Alex Tate got in touch with me 2 days later, reminding me that I had promised to give him more coverage and attention as his campaign gathered pace. So first of all, Alex, apologies for taking so long to get back to you.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, there you go. Better late than never. And second of all, let's just do a quick recap on what the RPA is and why and how you and your colleague Benedict Pringle set it up.
We're essentially the campaign is focused on preventing lies in election ads. As we're a not-for-profit, politically neutral campaign, but as you pointed out, we've got a background in marketing and advertising, and as you pointed out, we found it really ridiculous that when you're advertising a chocolate bar, you've got 4 sets of regulations that you've got to abide by to ensure that it's accurate, and when you're running an election advertising campaign trying to influence votes in the UK, you've got none. And so we just think as we head towards the general election, especially with technology developments accelerating, it's incredibly important that some action's taken around this.
Was there a moment of realisation for you when you sort of did a double take and slapped your forehead and thought, crikey, I can't believe it. If I was doing political advertising instead of product advertising, I'd be absolutely unregulated.
I think there's been several instances like that across the time that we've been doing it. We actually think one of the biggest themes of our times is misinformation and disinformation. Yes. It's not just us saying that. It's the World Economic Forum released a report, its Global Risks Register ahead of Davos this week, and it had number 1 on that list ahead of climate change in the short term is AI-driven misinformation and disinformation because of the amount of elections going on. And as a subset of that, we think election advertising is really something we've got to get a handle on quickly. If you've got a politician that comes in here and he's trying to get a dodgy stat past you, you're going to hold into account. If you've got election ads running with disinformation in them, it's a channel direct into the public to put that into the public discourse. And not only that, it amplifies the disinformation too. Some of the spending limits have just increased significantly in the run-up to the general election. So this election, we think, is going to be the dirtiest that we've seen in the UK. And that's why we think some action needs to be taken.
And so does the public. It's odd, isn't it? 87% of voters agreed with the statement that it should be a legal requirement that factual claims in political adverts must be accurate. Do we have any indication of or any idea of how many realise that it's not a legal requirement?
We do, yes. We did run that a couple of years ago. And the large majority of the public aren't aware that there aren't any rules.
Just presume it's being policed.
Well, you could argue it makes it even more effective in some ways.
Yes, exactly that.
Like that. And I think actually one of the themes, I suppose, at the moment is around AI, certainly in the advertising industry. And we think that's got the potential to really turbocharge this situation over the next couple of months. I'll give you another example.
Yeah, do.
A research report, I think, gave us a taste of this last week, where it identified there were 100 deepfake paid Facebook Rishi Sunak ads that got over the last month that got a reach of 400,000 on Facebook, and it's just a taste of things to come, really. So as our campaign's developed, we've been thinking about actions that can be taken, and we gave evidence to in 2020 actually, just the year after I last met you, we gave evidence to the House of Lords Democracy and Digital Technology Committee that was a cross-party group and had one of its unanimous recommendations that was supported by all the parties to support what we're advocating for election advertising regulation. And in the absence of that regulation, we've put together a code. There's quite a simple ask of the parties in the run-up to the general election that we're going to be approaching the parties and asking them to support. And it's quite simply just asking them to be accurate in their election ads. And if an ad is found to be misleading, that they'll correct the record and do something about it.
Yeah.
You'd think that's quite a simple ask of the parties.
Normal people mind. I'm thinking about how they respond to real-time fact checks or requests from people like the Office of National Statistics not to repeat untruths in the actual House of Commons. But I noticed this week that some Tories are still claiming victories on crime statistics that have been revealed to be completely meaningless because they compare a period where computer crime and fraud was not counted with a period when it was. I just to take you back to 2020, that was David Putnam's. He was the chair of of that committee, and I think your organisation described the government's response as evasive, going a little further and saying it is clear that the party in power wishes to preserve its freedom to misinform in advertising. I'm not being the devil's advocate, but why would I sign up to something?
So we're not advocating. It's not impairing freedom of speech. All we're asking.
No, I know, but why? If I am a Tory, let's say, and that's partly because of my own political leanings and partly because they've been in power for 14 years. I won the last general election by lying. I got Brexit over the line by lying. I got Boris Johnson into Downing Street by lying. I'm Rishi Sunak and I'm still lying. And I'm doing that in person and on telly and in radio studios. And you're a bit optimistic if you think they're going to get held to account by the average client journalist in many corners of the British media. So it's working brilliantly for me. And now we're going to do loads of Facebook stuff. We're going to get big Dominic Cummings back on the case and we're going to be pumping all sorts of nonsense into your Auntie Doris's Facebook account. And we'll probably win that battle as well by lying. Why would I sign up to a code that forbids me from lying?
Well, so we don't think there's an option, really. When you look at how trust is being degraded in politics, you look at these developments we've been talking around technology. You've got a lot of parties at the moment talking about wanting to clean up politics and to detoxify politics. And actually, we need some of the parties to start walking the walk rather than talking the talk.
Who is?
In fact, we just launched it this week, and we've had. We're delighted that the Green Party's been the first to officially support it, and actually, pretty much every opposition MP that we speak to supports the concept of it. We just need, when we speak to them about it, we just need some leadership from the parties to actually take some action on it.
You're busy on Friday. What are you doing on Friday morning?
I could be free.
Why don't you ring in when Sadiq Khan is here and get him to publicly commit to supporting it?
Yeah, okay. Well,
all right, don't tell anyone that this is what we're planning. Everyone keep this under your hats, all right? But I think we should do that. So, because what I was thinking, listening to you, is you need more people in studios to actually put it directly to politicians and say, why aren't you signing it? The Green Party have signed up for it. Why haven't you?
And also, actually, I think your listeners can do something about it too. So we're a not-for-profit campaign.
Don't overestimate their abilities, Alex.
Well, if they're passionate about it, and
what can they do? I'm joking, obviously. Tell us what they can do.
We're a not-for-profit campaign. If they go onto our website, it takes a minute. It's reformpoliticaladvertising.org. They can email their MP and ask them to sign up to the code. That's reformpoliticaladvertising.org. And we're going to be, as we have been doing over the last couple of years, we're going to be running a project tracking all the misleading ads in the run-up to the general election.
It's important.
To surface those.
Well, we can help with that.
And and if people want to send any ads to us and also track the progress of all of that, our Twitter's Clear Politics with a 5 as the last S. That's Clear Politics with a 5 as the last S.
And reformpoliticaladvertising.org.
So I'll take you up on that offer on Friday.
Yeah, do that. Seriously, have a word with Eleanor afterwards and we'll make sure that happens, see what he has to say on the subject. Final question, not necessarily one you'd be expecting. Were you expecting to have achieved more by now when you set this up in 2018? Because I know when I spoke to you in 2019, and you still have the zeal of an evangelist, but the egregiousness of the problem you were describing was so obvious that I felt you thought, this, as soon as people find out about it, then we'll be unstoppable.
I think maybe over the first couple of years. But actually, as the years have progressed, the ability for and actually the effect that disinformation has on our elections has actually become more apparent as we've been tracking it. if you look over the last couple of election cycles, obviously take the Johnson landslide out of the equation, there's been quite a few sort of quite close run elections, and then actually we've been tracking it at a local level as well, and some of those are incredibly close. And there are examples like probably one of the most trailed by-elections obviously last year was the Uxbridge by-election.
Yes.
Yes,
of course.
the margin of victory, I think there were 30,000 votes cast in that. The margin of victory was 500.
Yes.
And the main campaign vehicle that was used by the Conservatives was a fake newspaper called the Stop ULEZ Times that had in an imprint, had very small letters that it was the promoter it was from. But the rules around imprints are so inadequate, you don't even have to say what party it's from.
Right.
So actually,
So it looked
looking
independent, or it
looked like it was from a campaign
genuine,
group.
or bona fide, and presumably some fibs about the likelihood of your car being susceptible for the ULEZ charge as well. But I shall go to reformpoliticaladvertising.org to find out more, and I shall tweet something from your account, Clear Politics, with a 5 in place of the final S, so that people who follow me can start following you.
Thanks,
Alex
James.
Tate. No, thank you. And I'm sorry that I didn't get back to you quicker. It seems 4 years feels like a long time, but I just wanted to make sure that you were in it for the long run.
Yeah. It's yes, it's not going to be easy, but
No,
it's super
very,
important.
very important. And I admire your zeal and your optimism and your principles, actually. 12:48 is the time.